First off, just want to really introduce Jefferson Frank as a partner, and also let you guys know that we are going to be talking less about actual deep technical topics, but more so about industry trends, what companies are doing, what employees are seeing, and it's going to be centered very much around the salary survey that we do across the globe on an annual basis. So first off, who Jefferson Frank is we are a niche IT resource company that focuses solely on AWS resources. So we help end users and partners such as Eagle Dream actually find technical talent and enable their projects and continue their AWS journey. So we have teams that focus across DevOps, data, infrastructure, platform, security, both in contract and permanent. And we have about 41,000 AWS specific candidates in our database. And, we are a sponsor of reInvent, every year. Curious to see what will happen this year at reInvent. And a select technology partner with a marketplace offering that actually enables you to go and independently search for for candidates on a confidential basis. So, first off, let me go ahead and introduce the AWS salary survey. So we're going to cover the demographics of the survey, some of the major findings and trends that we see within the marketplace, moving into certifications, how important they are, what is out there, and what they can do for you and for your teams, and then further into how companies are tackling their projects, what's important, and finally have a good look at diversity as well. So once again, introducing the salary survey. So every single year we poll upwards of 40,000 AWS professionals across the globe, and we compile all this data. And I'm gonna I will send a link, or we'll distribute a link that will cover this further. But ultimately, here are some of the demographics. 38% of the individuals, so roughly about 18,000 individuals responded from the US, and they're 5% from Canada. And we also took a look at the gender imbalance that is currently occurring within, let me see if I can get rid of this, it is currently occurring just within the tech channel, as well as age. So as you can see, the vast majority of respondents and the AWS community in general tends to be a little bit more male dominated, and we'll cover that in gender include later in the diversity, and the age demographic is 25 to 34, makes up almost 50% of the respondents. So going into some of the key findings, we're going to take a quick look at just the levels of the individuals that have actually responded to the survey, and then move into the products and what we're seeing. And guys, I really do apologize for whatever reason the presentation is just running off without me. So of the respondents, same thing, about 51% are in that intermediate or experienced level. We have a few senior management, everything else is scattered across. But what I wanted to highlight about this is that pretty much is the typical makeup of when we deal with customers, both partners and end users. At least 50% of the technical staff tends to still be in that hands-on doer mentality. And then, ultimately, of the organizations that we polled, the functions are almost all contained within some form of IT. It's just really how they classify themselves. So, moving over to the product, we while we didn't go into the specific services, such as EC2 on compute, or within storage, Elastic Block Storage or Glacier, we actually were curious as to how companies are using the products. So what we actually found that 93% of individuals that we surveyed had a compute function, 87% storage, 79% database, 65% and then network and content delivery, and 64% are actually putting that emphasis on security finally. And something that's very important to note is that that number associated to security in our salary survey for 2018 to 2019, that number was at about 27%. So that one of the major trends that we're really seeing across the market right now is the emphasis on securing the applications. And as COVID has hit us and more remote working has been happening, we actually anticipate that number to go up as high as the database or storage or even the compute level. So long story short, if your company isn't considering security, or if you're not considering security, or if you're looking for a direction to evolve either from an application or infrastructure standpoint, security is one of the major trends that we currently see. So beyond that, looking at what's next to adopt, individuals that don't have storage, that was a very, very hot topic. We are actually doing a poll on this right now, and once again, you don't see security here, but security is continuing to elevate in importance within every single customer and organization that we talk to. So, and then top 5 products in demand, similar, and top 5 products predicted to go into demand. Once again, not seeing security, so a little addendum to our salary survey. So in this section, I'd like to take a little bit of time to discuss certifications. When we have been doing webinars, when we've done TECHTalks previously, one of the most common questions that I'm personally asked is, what might be the best certification if somebody wants to go down the serverless route, or if somebody wants to go down a route that doesn't have a certification, and what are the most valuable certifications? So while we don't have a polling question, I would really encourage you guys to save your questions to the end, a little bit more centric around this, because we do feel that this is one of the largest value adds that we see from a questioning standpoint. So ultimately, what we've learned is 54% of respondents have at least one AWS certification. And the most common certification, as most of you might guess, is the associate architect. That seems to very much be what you would classify as that first step in the certification journey. What we find is that people then will go into more of the specialty certifications and go further down the associate route, sysops or developer, and then continue to build on those experiences. Another point to note here is what we continue to find, and what is one of the highest level of demands for our customers. Whether you're a hiring manager or you're a candidate, we are getting constant requests for DevOps professionals. The actual professional level certifications, but the specialty certifications. And while most of the specialty certifications are still newer, we're seeing them rapidly grow in demand. And if you are looking to hire talent, from a hiring manager perspective, one of the most important things that you can do and to attract candidates, if you require the certification, is to actually work on a learning and development path for the individuals that you're hiring. Or if you're looking for a job and you want to really distance yourself, go and get one of the certifications. And what I mean by that is, if you are currently trying to attract AWS talent, the certifications themselves do not cost a lot. A Cloud Guru is a phenomenal training methodology. AWS has some of their own training, but by offering to pay for some of the costs of training, it's a very nominal cost that really will help attract some of the talent that has the correct skill sets, but might not be certified yet. And you can also encourage people to get certified before applying. And once again, from an independent learning standpoint, if you are looking for a job or not looking for a job, it doesn't hurt to ask your boss if they'll pay for the training and certifications or the career development, or if you're entering the job market, going and doing it yourself. And we'll now move over to some of the barriers of undertaking a certification, because truth be told, it took me a little while to get a few of my certifications. I've still put off the cloud practitioner certification for too long. It's more so if you were to pull me, it's just a time commitment involved in studying, and we wanted to highlight some of these instances of what other people are feeling in the market. Why aren't people getting certified? Or what are, I don't want to use the word excuse per se, but what are some of these barriers that prevent people from just taking the time and getting certified. Amazon heavily pushes certifications. Almost every single customer that we work with prefers certifications and certified employees, and a large number of our customers are actually, especially with COVID right now, using online and e-learning to help upskill their staff in the meantime. So I'm just going to leave this slide up for a few more seconds for everybody to take a look, write down some of the questions that we can get to at the end, and I'll give it another 10, 15 seconds, and we'll move on. Okay. And obviously with Eagle Dream putting on this event, we really wanted to put a focus on what other end users or what other AWS customers are doing, what their teams look like, what products they're looking at, what are some of the common industry trends as we walk through this. So at this point, what we are looking to do is look at the AWS team sizes from a end user organization. So we actually sat there and asked respondents how many employees work with their in-house AWS team. Almost a quarter, or 23%, told us that there are 9 permanent employees or more that work with AWS in their organization. So we then took it a step further and looked at how many employees are their AWS focus currently exist in each of the organizations. So at this point, 9 is the most common number, but what we do find is that 1 to 2 employees are very frequent, depending on the size of the organization. And then looking at the user adoption rate of the AWS in your current employer, right now, 25% polled at 80 to that 100 mark. And then looking at the actual migration, or migrating to AWS, we asked our respondents if their employees had migrated to AWS in the past year. I'd just like to take a minute and focus on this, because one of the largest trends that we're still seeing is companies are, while your organization may be onto ML, may be onto DevOps or more of the advanced functionality, 52% have actually just migrated within the last year. From on-premise environment. Some companies are migrating or rolling some of the services to host on AWS, such as Windows workloads on AWS. Per Dustin's point earlier, Microsoft does tend to be quite expensive, and due to the EA agreements and some of the additional commitments that Microsoft puts on you. So we're actually seeing a large number of customers start to evaluate what they're doing with Microsoft, what they've been doing from Azure. Azure is very broad because it also includes, the Office 365. If you're running, Dynamics 365, that all gets rolled into Azure. But what we are finding is that a lot more companies are actually focusing Windows workloads hosted on AWS. The Google percentage, 21%, that is mainly contained within the data and analytics space. And the rest of them are very minor cloud spends. And please bear in mind this is globally, so you do see the Alibaba and some other clouds that may be more prevalent in other areas. But ultimately, what are the main reasons for implementing AWS? First and foremost is the desire to move to the cloud. Secondly is the cost reduction. Once again, we'll take a moment to highlight this because what we've found is that cost optimization is one of the #1 trends ever since COVID came and unfortunately disrupted everything. But ultimately, there's many different reasons why customers are implementing AWS tools and services, migrating. But they are the #1 cloud provider, and ultimately, what we see here is the demand, the breadth of the product, and AWS is the best of breed. Obviously, a little bit biased since all we do is AWS, but you guys can all form your own opinion. Finally, I'd like to conclude with some of the diversity stats. So something that's very important to Jefferson Frank, the Frank Recruitment Group as a whole, is addressing diversity imbalances, gender imbalances, and we sponsor a number of different events, such as the Women in IT Awards, and really try to evangelize making the workplace as diverse as possible. So we first off, we part of the survey is we poll every single person and ask these four major questions, and and we sit there and measure responses on agree, neutral, disagree, or unsure. So, the first question: my employer has a workforce that includes people in various cultural backgrounds. My employer recruits and retains mature age staff. My employer has policies in place to support employees' mental health, and the workforce at my organization includes people with disabilities. The good news is that overwhelmingly, from a diversity standpoint, is most individuals do agree. There's not a lot of disagreements, but ultimately, if if you feel that any of these are issues within your organization, I mean, feel free to reach out to us, ask any sort of advice, or we could refer you to a number of diversity programs and make sure that we can continue to drive diversity within the AWS community. And one of the main issues that we've looked at, particularly over the last year, off of the back of the salary survey, is just the gender diversity in the workplace. Ultimately, do you find that there is a very large imbalance from a gender diversity standpoint, less so than less so than a ethnic or cultural diversity, because tech really does bring multiple cultures together. But I will send once again the link to the salary survey. You could read more into this, but I really wanted to take a few minutes to highlight some of these stats. Around the gender and diversity within the workplace. So that really concludes my portion of the presentation, and we'll just go ahead and turn it over for a quick Q&A to see if.
Thanks, Pat.
Back up. Yep.
I actually have a question for you from David, one of our attendees, in regards to the security area. Is there significant growth is that primarily driven by identity and access management adoption, or is that driven by other factors as well?
It's driven right across the board. It really just depends on what the issues are. So I guess I'll kind of start with what I would call the new normal. Since Jefferson Frank as a company, I was one of the few employees that ever worked remote. Just because I travel around and I don't necessarily live near an office, but we're about 98%, 5 days a week on site in the office, set up for remote in any capacity. And with COVID hitting, we overnight had to give access to sensitive information, databases, applications, all the above, to individuals' laptops that may not even be secure in the first place. So we've seen the need for security grow from just I wouldn't call it an afterthought, but part of a migration, part of linking it into the overall security strategy. Every time there's a hack such as Capital One or Target or Equifax, that really brings it to the forefront. But now that individuals are having to work remote and changes are being made in the day-to-day, we're seeing people put an emphasis on device security, mobile security, application security, and infrastructure security, and bundling it all together. I hope that answers the question.
Awesome, thanks. And David, let us know if you have any other follow-up questions on that. Great questions. Awesome. With that, thank you so much, Pat, so much for taking the time to join us.